It's been a while since I first took the Salomon Pulsar Trail Pros out of their box for the first time and took them out on their first outing. And it was actually running a relay section in a race down here in Cornwall called the Southwest Traverse. Super challenging race, starts at Lizard Point and then you follow this epic route all the way to the iconic finish at Land's End. I was on the last leg from Penzance to Land's End and it's one of my favourite sections of coast path. A beautiful section of coast path, challenging but beautiful, and since then I put some good miles into these and there's been some real standout features, but I have had a few issues along the way. So let's dive into the video and find out what's going on. Welcome back folks, I'm Lloyd Purvis and this is Run4Adventure. Thanks for joining us for another video and I hope everybody is fit and well out there in YouTube world. It's been quite a time since we brought you a sort of full in-depth Run4Adventure review on a running shoe, and I've also had a lot of people asking me about how I'm getting on with these. So without further ado, let's dive into the video and give you guys a few facts and figures about the shoe. The Pulsar Trail Pro retails in the UK for £160. Weight-wise it comes in at 270 grams in a UK 10, and we've got a 6mm heel offset, so you get 33mm under the heel and 27mm under your forefoot. I went for this sort of crazy wacky CIELE collaboration design and colorway, but don't worry, there is some more subtle color options available. And when it comes down to sizing, I would say it is a little bit short on sizing, so I went up to a UK 10 from my normal UK 9.5 and the length feels just right. And I'd also say it's got average width in the toe box. Breaking down the construction in a bit more detail, and we're going to start off with the upper first. So you get this sort of booty styled engineered mesh upper, so no traditional tongue in the shoe. You've literally got this sort of one piece of fabric or material wrapping around your foot, giving you that very sort of precise and connected feel and fit. Because it is a performance driven shoe, it is quite stripped back in the upper, so you don't get a lot of padding across the top of your foot or around that ankle collar or in the heel cup. But Salomon have worked these small sort of internal zones of padding into that ankle just to give you a little bit more comfort. We've got some added structural overlays starting at the heel, working down to the midfoot and around those lace eyelets, just to give that upper a bit of substance but also to help with durability. Substantial toe protection from a nice toe bumper, and you get Salomon's quick lace system. So if you're not familiar with Salomon's design, then a lot of their trail shoes come with this quick lace. So it's a cord system, no traditional laces. Literally pull that cord down tight, get a good sort of lockdown around your midfoot, slide down that little plastic locking mechanism and you're locked in and ready to go. Don't worry that you've got all this lace sticking out, because Salomon have worked a really handy pocket in the tongue so you can stow that lace away so you're not going to get it snagged when you're out hitting the trails. Moving down to that midsole construction, and it was actually the midsole design that drew me to this shoe in the first place, because I believe it was Salomon's first ever sort of performance-based plated trail running shoe. Now, it is well documented on the channel in the past that maybe I'm not the biggest fan of carbon plated trail running shoes, because I've always found them too stiff and too rigid when I'm running on technical trails. Now, this energy blade, as Salomon call it, is actually made out of TPU and not carbon, so it should be a bit more flexible and a bit more forgiving when you're running on uneven ground. The compound housing that blade is Salomon's Energy Surge compound, and I've been a big fan of this ever since I tested and reviewed their Ultra Glides. It's created using a combination of EVA and olefin to give you that sort of long-lasting, cushioned and bouncy ride. Last but not least, the all-important outsole, and we've got a 3.5mm multi-directional lug pattern, and Salomon have opted for their all-terrain Contigrip rubber this time round to give you good levels of traction and grip on a big mix of different terrains and underfoot conditions. So there you have it, Salomon's first ever plated trail running shoe, the Pulsar Trail Pro, and I was pretty impressed with the performance of it after that initial run. The midsole felt great. Even on the sections of road I had to run, it felt very comfortable, very bouncy and very responsive. That TPU energy blade handled the more technical trails really well as well, but I did have my doubts on the upper design, especially the lacing system, and I wasn't fully convinced by the levels of traction I got from that outsole. So let's jump in and find out if all those doubts have just faded away, or am I still continuing to have issues? Starting off on a positive note first, and that midsole design has continued to impress me, and I think Salomon have got the blend of that energy surge compound just right in this shoe. Feels very comfortable underfoot no matter what type of terrain you're running on, and then it really does feel lively when you pick up the pace or pick up the tempo, especially if you're running on a sort of flatter, more compacted section of trail or the dreaded tarmac. The same can be said for that energy blade. That TPU plate is definitely a bit more forgiving than a stiffer carbon fiber plate, and I personally think it's way more suited to that trail environment. You still feel like it's giving you a little bit of help, a little bit of propulsion, but it doesn't compromise the flexibility of that midsole at the midfoot like so many carbon plated trail shoes do. Also, a really big fan of the geometry that Salomon have used, you know, feels very efficient even if you're just out there bobbing along the trails, and very lively when you pick up the pace. So I think Salomon have done a great job when it comes to midsole design and is definitely the standout feature. Moving up to the upper, and this is where some things work really well and some things unfortunately didn't. Having that sort of booty design makes you feel very secure in the upper. Can be a bit tricky to get the shoe on, but once you're in it, you're definitely in it, and it does feel nice and snug wrapped around your foot. You've got these internal little zones of padding around the ankle, and considering the upper is pretty stripped back, the heel of the shoe actually felt very comfortable and I felt nicely locked in. My issues come with the midfoot of the shoe, and in particular it is the lacing system. So because this is a very stripped back upper, there's not a lot of padding across the top of your foot. In fact, there's no padding at all, and where Salomon have used this speed lace system and you have the eyelets, they've reinforced those eyelets with a bit of stitching, and I can't quite believe when you feel inside how pronounced and how rough that stitching is. You know, Salomon haven't put any padding down there or any extra material to try and soften it up. Now, it might be because I've got bony feet, but that stitching has definitely caused me some issues, and whenever I've taken the shoe on a longer run, I've had some form of irritation on both feet. No problem on shorter runs, 10Ks, things like that, but whenever I've gone into double figures, it has become a little bit uncomfortable. I actually had my doubts about it on that initial run we did in the shoe, and towards the end of it, it was getting a little bit painful. I just put it down to the fact that it's a new shoe and it might take a bit of bedding in, but unfortunately it hasn't improved over time. The problem is, once that starts to dig in, I have to loosen off the quick lace system to take a bit of pressure off the top of my foot, and then I don't feel locked into the upper and I feel like I'm slipping and sliding around. So that little stitching problem leads to a bigger issue, and it all seems a little bit silly to me because a little bit of fabric or padding internally would stop that happening, and I'm sure it'd feel fine and you wouldn't have that stitching digging into your foot. So there has been some comfort issues along the way, which is never going to be great for a trail running shoe that's sort of designed for running long distances. The only other thing I was slightly disappointed with was the levels of traction from this outsole. So not running on mud or tricky conditions like that, it was just loose, dry trails. So in the UK, it's been pretty warm this summer, and I spent a lot of time running on sort of dusty, dry, loose trails, and I wasn't convinced by the level of traction, and that's not what you want when you're running down a steep technical descent, that's for sure. I'm not sure whether it's the depth of the lug or the layout of the lugs, but I personally think that outsole needs a bit of a rethink. You can see it has been a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to the performance of the Pulsar Trail Pro for me. I really enjoyed the performance of that midsole on every run. It's felt great on all types of terrain, but I do feel like I've been a bit let down when it comes to certain aspects of that upper, especially the lacing system and the levels of traction from that outsole. But we've come to that time in the review where we need to get some points on the Run4Adventure board. So let's start scoring, and we're going to start with the price first. At £160, it's definitely quite an expensive trail running shoe, but when you actually start to look at the other plated trail shoes on the market, say Hoka's Tecton X at 170, the North Face Flight Vective at 180, and the crazily priced Speedland trail shoe at around £330, the price of the Pulsar Trail Pro isn't actually that bad. So we're going to give it a still pretty pricey 6 out of 10. Up next is comfort and performance, and if I was just scoring the midsole, I would probably give it a 9 out of 10 because I really have enjoyed running with that midsole under my foot. Unfortunately, I do feel the shoe is let down a bit by sort of upper comfort, especially across the midfoot. You can have the best performing, most comfortable midsole in the world, and if it's attached to an upper that causes irritation after only sort of 10 or 12 miles, then it's not really going to work out that well. So it saddens me, but we are going to have to mark it down a bit when it comes to comfort and performance. So we're going to give it a slightly disappointing 6 out of 10. And always last to score is the all-important topic of durability, which is obviously a hard thing to score after, you know, only sort of 40 plus miles in a running shoe. Ideally, I would love to get 100, 150, 200 miles in a shoe before our full in-depth reviews, but that would mean we'd only sort of review a handful of shoes a year. But so far, so good. No early signs of wear at all, no overlays peeling off, no sort of breaking down at the flex point of that upper, and the outsole looks to be holding up to the mileage really well. So we're going to give it, for durability, a solid 8 out of 10. So tallying up all the points, Salomon's Pulsar Trail Pro is going to score a room for improvement 20 out of 30. Anyone that's followed the channel for any period of time will know that I like to be seen when I'm out hitting the trails, and I love bright kit and bold shoes. So clearly I love the design of this collaboration shoe. I love the fact each shoe's slightly different with a different coloured toe bumper, so it gets a big thumbs up from me, but I understand it won't be to everybody's liking, but I love it. When it comes to comparisons, a couple of shoes we've already mentioned in the video: the North Face Flight Vective, another performance-driven carbon-plated trail running shoe. However, you would definitely get a bit more depth of cushioning from the Salomon shoe. You've also got the Hoka Tecton X, again another lightweight plated trail shoe. And we mustn't forget that Salomon do a non-pro version of these, so the Pulsar Trail. It's a little bit heavier, but the upper definitely has a slightly different construction and more padding in the upper, so that might be a good thing. But the midsole construction is very, very similar. So I'd be really interested to get hold of a pair of the non-pro version, give them a run and see how they compare to this. So wrapping up with a quick conclusion, and there is certain aspects of this shoe that I've really enjoyed and Salomon have done a good job on. And then there's been some quite silly mistakes made that could have very easily have been rectified. You know, on all those shorter runs I did, I really enjoyed how the shoe felt and it performed really well. And it was only when I started up in the distance that those problems happened. So if you're looking for a lightweight, responsive plated trail running shoe for shorter, quicker training sessions or shorter, quicker races, then I actually think the Pulsar Trail Pro does that really well. But if you're looking for a trail shoe, you're going to be running long distances on a big mix of terrain and you want them to be supremely comfortable, then I would probably give these a miss, because I think there's some shoes on the market that do that a lot better. There you have it, folks, a wrap on another full review here at Run4Adventure. Really hope you enjoyed it, really hope you found the video helpful. If you did, you know what to do. Smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But don't forget to hit that bell icon so you'll then be notified when we upload any new exciting running content. If you've got some good mileage in your pair of Pulsar Trail Pros, then let us know all about how you're getting on when it comes to the performance. Are you loving how that midsole feels and performs? And are you having issues when it comes to discomfort with that upper? Or is it the complete opposite, and are you very comfortable inside your upper and loving the feel of the shoe? Let us know all about it in the comments below. Don't forget you can follow us on our other social media platforms, whether it be Instagram, Facebook or Strava. But for now, guys, thanks for watching. It's always appreciated. We'll be back on the channel very soon. And as always, stay safe and keep on running. Housing that energy blade is the compound housing that energy blade is Salomon's Ultra Surge. So tallying up all the points for Salomon's Pulsar Trail Pro, it's going to come in with a give you that sort of long-lasting, cushioned, bouncy ride.